Welcome to the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, the show that puts the spotlight on the incredible women who fuel the world of motorsports. From drivers to crew members, engineers to fans, and everyone in between, we're here to celebrate the trailblazers, dreamers, and doers shaping the sport we love. Each episode, we share inspiring stories of females of all ages, from every corner of the motorsports universe, past, present, and future. It's a journey through the seasons of life filled with heartfelt moments, laughter, and a whole lot of horsepower. So whether you're a lifelong fan, a racer yourself, or simply curious about the extraordinary women behind the wheel, settle in, relax, and enjoy a fun and uplifting ride with us. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, connecting and celebrating women in motorsports, one story at a time. Let's hit the track. Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. And my guest tonight is Abigail Cole. And Abigail, I'm so happy we could get you on the podcast tonight. I appreciate you taking time to do this. So let's start first by sharing a little bit about yourself. So would you let my listeners know a little bit about you, where you live? Do you have any pets or brothers or anything at all that you want to share about yourself?
Well, I am a junior dragster driver. I am 13 years old and live just south of Seattle, Washington. I have one dog. He's a Rottweiler named Bronco. I started drag racing when I was 6 years old, but fell in love with it at 3 years old at the national event here in Seattle.
So at 3 years old, who took you to the drag races?
My parents.
Yeah. And were they big race fans?
I'm actually not sure.
Okay.
Obviously, Dad races a drag boat, so he's been involved in racing.
Yeah.
And Mom kind of just goes along with it, I guess.
Okay.
But she likes it as well.
All right. So your dad was probably the one that saw the races were coming and away you went. Yeah, for sure. So, are you homeschooled or do you go to school?
No, I am homeschooled. I've been homeschooled since second grade.
I kind of figured, that's a popular thing for girls in motorsports because of all the travel, and it works out really well. I think it's homeschooling is something that really caught on, I think, during COVID, and when the parents realized that it worked out pretty good, then you kind of stayed. But second grade, so let's see, you're 13, so you've done it quite a few years then.
Oh yeah.
So tell me about your motorsports story. So you went to a race, you started racing when you were 6, you liked it since you were 3. So tell me, from the beginning to where you are now, what have you done? How did you get going? What kind of cars have you raced? Tell me your story.
Yeah, so like I said, I went out to the national event when I was 3 years old. I sat in the juniors, and then I visited the Top Fuel pits, watched in the stands, and at that time I called the Top Fuelers shaky cars because they shook my insides. I kept wanting to go back to the junior display and sit in the car again. And we got my car when I was 5. This is the only car that I have raced, and we don't think that I will grow out of this one, so I should continue racing this throughout my junior career. In 2018, which was my first season, I won the Junior Storm Championship at Pacific Raceways, which is my home track. We started traveling a few years later, going into Division 7, so California and Arizona. I've gone quite a few different tracks and states for racing. I think as far as like Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma. I got a championship last year in the Junior Thunder bracket here at home, and I moved up in classes this year to the 790 bracket, which I'm still adjusting to. We've had one race this season, and I'm excited to continue with going faster.
Yeah, so the 790 bracket, for those people who don't know what that means, why don't you explain what that means?
So the 790 is the bracket that I'm in currently. It's 13 to 14-year-olds, down in Division 7. Here in Division 6, it's 13 to 17-year-olds. And the 790, it's how many seconds it takes you to get from the starting line to the 8th mile. So it's 7.9 seconds.
Right. Because, we have a lot of people that listen that maybe aren't as familiar with drag racing. So I always like for you to explain, so that they're not lost about what you're up to there. So, what's your favorite thing about being involved in racing or driving a junior dragster?
My favorite thing, probably the camaraderie, the family that comes along with it. And that's both in drag racing, boat racing. It's all a community of racers, and we all support each other. If we need a part from this for this thing, maybe someone has it, they'll loan it to you. I think that's the best part of racing. It's that and the thrill of it, for sure.
Yeah, the thrill. Because, when you think about 7.9 seconds in an 8th mile, I mean, like how fast, excuse me, how fast is that? Do you know?
It's about 70, like 78, 80 miles an hour is what
Yeah.
I'm going right now. So to me, that's pretty fast for a 13-year-old. I was going
Yeah.
50 at like 6 years old, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And a lot faster than most kids get to go at that age.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. So, how did your parents handle that? Like when you were 6 years old and you were going 50 miles an hour, I can't even imagine my kids doing that. So, how did they love it? Was your mom like terrified to death? A combination? How did they feel
Actually,
about it?
because my mom, well, people ask that a lot, and my mom always answers um, that I was always safe because we had the best of the best safety equipment and made sure that nothing was going to happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
So even if something did happen, I would still not have a scratch on me. We've had a few kids crash at home and they've rolled the cars and whatnot. They got out of the car, safety equipment off, everything was fine. There were no scratches, only damage to the car,
Yeah.
which that's the best thing, I think, because you're safe with the
Yeah.
safety equipment that you have. And I am a sponsored driver from Impact Racing, so I get my suit, my gloves, all of that, and it's all top-notch stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And, honestly, you're probably safer than driving down the highway. I mean,
Yeah.
when you think about it, we really are. But, it seems to people who don't understand or don't follow any kind of racing that, oh, it's really scary. It's a dangerous sport. Well, it is a dangerous sport, but you take every precaution to be as safe as possible. That takes a lot of the danger out of it. And so, yeah, that's good. I'm glad that you have all that equipment. I mean, we wouldn't race without it, that's for sure. And your parents are good support, and so that's important as well, for sure. So did you tell me 13 years old? What do the next 5 years look like, do you think? Are you going to try to keep racing? How long will you be able to race in the junior dragster? Um,
So I have to stop racing at 17 years old. If I turn 18 that year, that's no worries. I can run the year out in juniors. As soon as I'm 16, I can step up into big cars. Right now, I could run Junior Street, which is pretty much your parents' car, take it down the track. Kind of a starter class getting into the big car
mhm.
situation, um, getting used to that feel. So I might end up doing that this year a little bit. Not sure about that yet. And then hopefully I'll step into a big car at 16.
Yeah, I have no doubt you're probably going to be doing that. What's been your biggest challenge in learning to drive a junior dragster? Um, seems like there's a lot to learn. So, what's been your biggest challenge?
Well, it does seem like a lot, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. It's pretty much muscle memory now. I think that something that I'm still struggling with is the mental strength and that aspect of racing, because it does take that confidence. It does take that you believe in yourself. Um, that you can do it, that your mind works fast and all of that kind of stuff. So I've been working on that. I'm actually in a class right now helping me with that. I read books, I practice that kind of stuff every day, and just kind of building my mind so that I do believe in myself. I'm not saying, oh, I can't win this race.
Right.
No, I'm saying I will win this race.
Yeah, and isn't that the difference between, winning and losing really?
Oh,
Abigail, it's
absolutely.
it's it's your mindset. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. That's a famous saying. And so I love hearing that you're getting some education about it and reading some books. I think every kid that races should be doing that. And if not, if it doesn't necessarily help or they don't stick with racing, it helps them in life because you need that in life as well. It's a life lesson. Are you there, Abigail? I think I might have lost you.
I am.
Okay, there you're back. So, when you get ready to go out on the racetrack, are you nervous? Are you confident? How do you feel when you're at the starting line ready to go?
Well, I try to get all my nervousness out in the staging lanes before I get to the starting line. By the time I'm at the starting line, usually I'm ready to go. I'm confident. I'm buckled down tight and try to keep in a good mindset to win this race to get a good reaction time. I think by that time my mind's pretty clear and it's not like I'm thinking about much. Um, because like I said, all the movements are pretty much muscle memory now. So
Mm-hmm.
it's it's easy. Well, it's not easy, but it seems kind of easy.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying because you've done it before many, many, many times. So it's not
Exactly.
like the first time. Yeah, I understand. No, it's not easy, but it's simple. It's simple to remember what you need to do because your body remembers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me about your successes. You've won some pretty big races and things. What do you think contributes to that? And tell me some more about your successes.
Well, like I said, I have two championships now. The one in 2018, which was my first year, and I got a championship at home. And then last year, I got another championship here at home. Um, I have two Wallies, which is one of the most prestigious awards there is in
Mm-hmm.
drag racing. One from California, from Sacramento, actually, which that track is closed now. So that's kind of cool. And then I have one from our divisional at Bremerton, which is a track that's about an hour away from here. So kind of like my second home track, you could say. Um, I think those are my biggest
Mm-hmm.
achievements, awards, that kind of stuff. Um, as far as not talking about awards, but achievements, I think I've achieved getting stronger with my mental stuff and of course on track because I practice tree practice every day, so I have my little practice tree and practice little reaction times, and I've been able to adjust a lot better since doing that every day. So I would consider that an award achievement as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I often say that success doesn't necessarily mean winning a race. Success means progressing, getting better at whatever you're doing, so that the next time that you do it, it seems more simple, and it's not just about winning. There's a lot of things that you can be successful at in racing and never win a race. And so I love that you get that. I just heard you say that. So racing can be very up and down. We can have a great weekend or a day. We can have a bad day. What do you do when you have a bad day? How do you handle it?
Well, really, I try my best to stay in the present, not forget about those times, but learn from them, learn from my
Mm-hmm.
mistakes because they are opportunities to learn in them. And I don't want to hold on to the loss, though. I don't want to hold on to what I did wrong. I want to push that into the past, stay in the present, keep my confident mindset, and continue racing and have a fun time.
Yeah, that's a good plan for sure. So on race weekend, are you superstitious at all? Do you wear the same socks? You eat the same food? You always do the same things in the same order? Tell me about your race weekend.
I really don't. Although my mom has told me that she's noticed I always put my right glove on first before my left. For some reason, I don't know. It always just happens, and I don't mean to do it, but it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that muscle memory again taking over. Are you right-handed?
I am.
Yeah, that might be part of it too, for sure. But you're not superstitious.
Not really.
That's good. That's good. So, when I've been to drag races, and I have a really good track about 30 minutes from me, it's called US 131 Motorsports Park, Martin, Michigan. They have some really big races there. And I can remember, Abigail, when I first started the Women's Motorsports Network, I knew there were a lot of women involved in motorsports, okay? But I had no idea how many. I mean, the numbers are unbelievable, and they grow every season. They grow and grow. But one of the first times that I really noticed it was when I went up to US 131 for a big race, big national race they had. And I think there were more little girls in the junior dragsters than there were little boys. And I could not believe it. And I had such fun talking to all those little girls. So I'm assuming that when you go to all your races, there's a lot of other little girls that you're racing against.
Well, it's kind of 50-50. It's not necessarily more of boys, more of girls. It really is half and half.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know, I don't know. There might be a little bit more girls. I'm not sure, but for the most part, it is 50-50.
Yeah. And that's unusual because most other tracks you go to, circle track, asphalt, dirt, whatever, it's the girls are highly outnumbered. So, the fact that it is a pretty even between the boys and the girls is actually very amazing for sure. Do you think motorsports is a good sport for girls to be involved in?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think motorsports is a good sport for anyone to be involved in. It's it's got the general it's got the goodness. Now I can't think of the word. Okay, well, it's definitely it's fun. It's got the competition. It's got like I said, the thrill. It's got all of that, and I think you can learn a lot from it. Like I said earlier, I'm homeschooled, and we mold the homeschooling to what I do. So a lot of my homeschooling is in my racing, the math to for putting in data, that kind of stuff, figuring out what we need to change on the car. So we mold that into it. So I do think there's a lot to learn from it, and that can be helpful for anyone.
Yeah, and I haven't really heard anybody else mention that they kind of model their learning around the racing, but what a great idea. Does your mom figure all that out, like what you need to work on and learn so that it helps with your car, or who figures out the curriculum?
I don't really have a set curriculum. So I have creative writing classes. Like I said, I have mental strength classes. I'm taking ASL. I've done Spanish, stock classes in the past. But with the racing side, it's kind of just what I learn is what I learn. It's not a set curriculum inside of the racing. So
Okay.
it's it just it helps with all of it, I guess.
So the things you're learning in math and science and that, it pertains to or helps you when you're setting up your car or thinking about,
Exactly.
yeah.
So I
So
I guess you could say my racing gives me more of a real life experience of what I'm learning over here.
Yeah. And so much better because you can learn all kinds of things in a book, let's say a math book, and it's things that you may never use in your life. And I loved math as a student, but there's a lot of math that I took and learned that I've never used. And I actually worked in the accounting field. So you would think that math would have been a huge part of it. It was, but there were a lot of things that I probably never used and will never use. So it seems to me more efficient and more, um, I don't know the word either, that you're learning what you're going to put to use. And that makes a lot of sense to me. Is there anybody that you've looked up to as you've been a race car, as you got involved in motorsports? Someone that you know, would say maybe is a mentor, or someone that you've looked at them and they're like, yeah, that's who I want to be when I'm an adult.
Oh, absolutely. One of the drivers that I met at the national event when I was 3, it was Tony Schumacher when he was still the Sarge, with his army car, and I loved all that because we had gone to Seafair the previous day, which is an event here in Seattle, and I met a girl army helicopter driver or pilot, and so I wanted to be a helicopter pilot in the army and drive a top fuel dragster. So I guess he's someone I've looked up to. I love Leah Pruitt, Alexis DeJoria, Brittany Force, all of those people. As for people that have helped me and I looked up to in juniors, there's quite a few of the older girls that are now in big cars here at home. I've looked up to quite a few of them as well.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing. When you see those girls can do it, it makes you believe that you can do it too.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. What's the best advice you've ever been given, or a quote that you've, you know, kind of attached to, um, that when you know when you need some encouragement or something, it comes to mind?
I don't really have one. I guess when I need encouragement, most of the time I'll close my eyes and I'll think about myself achieving what I want to do, doing what I think I can't do, but I need to do or want to do. And I think that helps a lot. As for a quote or advice, I'm not sure on that one.
Okay. So in a lot of respects, what you do is you visualize crossing the finish line in first place. So visualizing when your eyes are shut and you see yourself going down the track and winning. That's how you encourage yourself to do your best.
Yeah, it gives me a lot of confidence. Um, if I'm having doubtful thoughts, maybe even in karate, because I do karate as well. And
Okay.
if I'm going to break a board and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. How am I going to do this? I'll take a second, I'll step back, close my eyes. I'm going to say, I'm going to do this. I'll see myself doing it. I'll go do it. It really boosts my confidence and it tells myself that I can do this. And I think it does help a lot.
Oh, I think positive attitude and believing in yourself can take you much farther than the alternative for sure. Yeah. So, you know, I know you're only 13, but I want you to think about, you know, someday when, you know, you're older and you're not racing anymore, what kind of a legacy do you want to leave on the motorsports? When they think about Abigail Cole, what do you want people to remember?
Well, I've never really thought about that before. Um, I guess I would want them to think, hmm,
It's a hard question, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you think about that because as you go through your racing career, it might be something that you know you will think about and have an answer for at some time for sure. So, what is your best race memory, good or bad, that you would like to share?
Hmm. Best race memory.
Have you ever flipped the car?
I have not.
Okay, that's a good thing. That's what I want to hear for sure. Your wins, your championship wins, had to be probably some pretty good memories. Was there a race that you were struggling and then you ended up winning? Anything like that where you just can look back and say, I never gave up and it paid off.
No, but I guess something that I could be really proud of myself. So when I won my first volley in Sacramento, I was just learning to drive the top end of the track and figuring out how to slow down if I needed to so I didn't break out and so on, like that stuff. And that was my first weekend ever doing it and ever learning it. And I did that and I won my first volley. And it was a good, I don't know, 40 car field or
Mm,
something like that. So, um, and then Sunday, the next day, I went out there and I lost because I did it wrong.
yeah. But you know what? You can do it though.
Oh,
And so,
absolutely.
yeah, and you can't be perfect every time. And so the fact that you did it the day before, now that you can do it again and you will do it
Oh,
again
yes.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, what about fans? Do you have any, like, I know usually dragster drivers are very accessible to the fans. Do you ever do like an autograph time or anything where you have little girls that come up and want to sit in your car or want your autograph?
Um, Not really. Sometimes we'll be on display at the national event and I'll sit there. I've got autograph cards, just like the pro drivers, and I'll give away those. And some kids will sit in the car.
Yeah.
Of course, I've got a bunch of fans on social media
Hmm.
that follow my whole racing career, which is amazing. Um, but we make autograph cards every year, and I hand them out at the national events and at any other races that there's someone that's interested.
Yeah. Because kids love to collect those for sure. So,
Oh yes.
yeah, social media. I know you have a good following there. So, why don't you share about how you use it, what platforms you use, and how people can follow you?
Okay, so we're on Facebook and Instagram for Abigail Cole Racing,
Hmm.
and then our family race team is on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, which is 629 Racing. Um, so that's where you can find us. And then I think that's all
Okay.
for those.
Um, and you've already had a race this season, so your season's already started.
It has. So last weekend we were in Bakersfield, California for our first race, and that was actually a new track that I've never been to. So that was really cool. Um, I did go out first round both days, but I had a lot of fun. It was my first race with the 790 or actually not the 790 motor. First race going fast.
Uh huh.
Um, we don't have my 790 motor yet, so we took some weight off the car and we were able to get it close to the index, which is really cool. So I had to adjust that. I had to adjust my reaction time, like where I leave on the tree. So that was really cool as well.
Yeah, and you're always learning, aren't you, Abigail?
Oh
Every
yeah.
track is different. Every day is different. You're always learning. So, do you post where you're going to be racing on social media ahead of time?
Um, Most of the time, yes, we have a schedule put up for I believe February and March, and then
Okay.
as the months go by, we'll keep posting more schedules of the next months to come. Um, but because everything's tentative and
Yeah.
we don't have all the schedule set in place yet, we obviously don't release all of the months.
Right. Right. Because things change for sure. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, is there anything that we haven't talked about that I needed to ask you that I totally missed? Like, do you have sponsors you want to talk about, or do you want to have, like who helps crew your car? Is it just your mom and dad? Anything like that you want to share?
I do have some sponsors. The ones that we've gotten so far this season is Meridian Drywall and AG Trucks and Equipment. We had quite a few last year and are waiting for some more to come in this year. I know we'll have a few returning, but that's not set in place yet. So those are the two I have right now. Mm-hmm. My mom and dad help me with the car. Mom does all the video stuff and, of course, makes the food for us. Mm-hmm. Dad does the work on the car that I can't do and dials me in and all that kind of stuff. I, however, do work on my car quite a bit. I do the tires. I help change motors when necessary. I do the oil, all of that kind of stuff. So those, I would love to thank my parents because they are amazing and they let me do what I do. So, but as for that stuff, that's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so often we don't realize, and especially younger girls, although I think you do, a lot of younger girls don't maybe always realize how lucky they are to be racing. And, sometimes we have that conversation off camera and then they'll say, oh, I should have thanked my parents or this or that. So you already did that. You're a step ahead for sure. So Abigail, I've really enjoyed talking to you. Is any last words that you want to share before we end the podcast for tonight?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Well, I know I've been following you for quite a while. And so I asked the gals that are on here if you'll tag Women's Motorsports Network when you post, then it's easier for me to find you amongst all the other hundreds of girls that, I'm trying to follow. So if you tag me in your post, then I can kind of keep better track of what you're up to. And if I can ever have you on again after, if you have a big race you've won and you want to share or do anything like that, I want you to always feel like you can reach out and we'll get you back on. So I love talking to you and learning more about your racing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's it for this episode of the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. We hope you've been inspired by the stories I shared today and feel more connected to the amazing community of women in motorsports. Remember, whether you're behind the wheel, in the pits, or cheering from the stands, your story matters. And together, we're driving change and celebrating every milestone. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who loves motorsports as much as you do. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more incredible stories. So until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep racing through life. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, where every woman's story is worth celebrating.